This is Charles Haley. You're listening to Nothing But Niners.
This is Kyle Juszczyk, and you're listening to Nothing But Niners.
So now they've got to start from deep in their end of the field, and Garrison Hurst takes advantage of it. He takes the handoff, hits to his right, into the 20. He's in the 30, needs to cut in. He comes back up the right sideline, breaks the third tackle, comes down to the 30. He's down to the 20. He's down to the 10. He's down to the 5. He's into the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown! 49ers! 96-yard run from scrimmage. Garrison Hurst breaking tackle after tackle, sweeps down the sideline. Throws off bodies like clothes after a marathon.
Young, back to throw. In trouble, he's going to be sacked. No, gets away. He runs, gets away again, goes to the 40, gets away again, to the 35, cuts back at the 30, to the 20, the 50, the 10. He died. Touchdown, 49ers.
Third down, Alex takes the snap. Alex looking down in post, and it's good. Touchdown! Touchdown, 49ers!
It is second down. Ryan takes the snap, throws the slant to the left side. It's Russell intercepted. The 49ers pick it, and Navarro Bowman is redemption. Navarro Bowman running it all the way for the touchdown. No greater redemption.
San Francisco 49ers, we can do whatever we want.
Click, click, boom. What's going on, faithfuls? It's your boy Mike from Nothing But Niners Crew. And guys, I am here to bring you guys another fun-filled episode full of hot takes. I have like 3 more of these in the tuck, man. We're going to be breaking down some old pressers from Kyle Shanahan. Just some clips of them, though, not the full pressers or anything like that. Then I'm going to be breaking down the joint practice after the final 50. I mean, the joint presser after the final 53. Not all that's going to happen today, but right now I want to focus on just a very specific story. But before we do, I want to welcome everybody to the Nothing But Niners channel, man. If it's your first time here, you are watching on YouTube, you see the instructions scrolling across the bottom of the page, man. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you know exactly when we are going live. Okay, I want to make sure that you guys know exactly when we are going on live so that you won't be the last person to join into the fun. All right, give us a follow on some of our social media platforms. We have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch. Those handles are Nothing But 9 ERS, and we also have Snapchat and X. Those handles are Nothing But 9 ERS. Okay, I'm sorry, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch are Nothing But Niners. Is spelled all the way out. No numbers in there anywhere. And then Snapchat and X are Nothing But 9 ERS. That is got the number in there. And then last but certainly not least, head on over to Patreon. Patreon.com/NB9ERS. And that is where this show is exclusively coming to the Patreonians out there. Yeah. Exclusive first on the Patreon channel. Patreon.com/NB9ERS. Make sure you guys head on over there, and you do not want to be the last person to join that community. I promise, okay? Today's episode is going to talk about something pretty simple, a football callus. It's a football callus, right? So check this out, right? Like when I met my wife, we were working for the state. I had this girlfriend that she was cool, but she wasn't really a girlfriend. She was someone that I was just like with, right? And then I met my wife that wasn't my wife at the time, and she was pregnant. And I was like, oh, man, but she's kind of fine. Like, I like that. I know she's pregnant, but she's fine. Anyway, so we ended up getting together. Fast forward to where we are now. But let's go back to when we first met, right? I didn't grow up necessarily with like a real father figure in the house all the time, like raising me. So I didn't know how to work with my hands or anything like that. I didn't know how, like I knew some things, like some stuff that you just learn on your own, right? I was an electronics guy. So I always wanted to know how to like install car radios and surround sounds and systems in the homes and anything like that. Like the digital stuff I could do, right? But then there's a different level of like working with your hands, right? There's like this thing where you can go and like put a car together out of just nuts and bolts and metal plates, right? Like I didn't have that. Or you can build a house where you could like take apart something in the house and just rearrange it and make the heat work when it wasn't working in the first. That kind of stuff, it was just beyond me. It was beyond me. So I meet my wife and I get to know her a little bit, and she finally was ready for me to meet her parents. And I meet her dad, and the first time I shook her dad's hand, it was like shaking hard rocks covered in sandpaper, right? Like this guy just had like calluses all over his hands. And I'm like, oh man, like this dude is like rough and he's firm. And the more I got to know my father-in-law, the more I realized like this guy can build a car from bumper to bumper, right? From like roof to oil pan. Right, from catalytic converter to the exhaust system. This guy could build a car from top to bottom, inside and out, and all he needed was like a wrench and a screwdriver. Like you just give him enough time and he can get it done. And then later on, I found out that he could do the same exact thing with an entire house, right? Like, oh, I want to move this pipe here and rearrange this room and all that. He would just come over with a hammer and just start doing stuff. Like he was just good with his hands. He was just good with his hands. And so as I got to know him, we did a couple of these home renovations and vehicle maintenances and things of that nature. And the more I worked with him, the rougher my hands got. The more I worked, the harder my hands got, the stronger my hands got. And I said, man, this is crazy. Right? Like I'm earning a callus. Like I'm building up a callus because, you know, it's not that like when you first grab some, oh man, my hands are too soft and it wasn't necessarily that, but you did feel it. Like you the first time you grip a screwdriver really hard and you squeeze, and you got to use two hands, just really, right? You get that little callus right on the top here. Like right in this area right here. This is where the first callus usually starts for everybody. Then you start to get it all the way across the top of your hand. And sometimes you get them here where the lines are. And the next time you grab that screwdriver, it's harder, right? You don't need to squeeze as hard. You could just, right? I started to build this callus. Well, there's a such thing as a football callus, right? So when I met my father-in-law, I'm young. I'm in the prime of my life. We're talking 15 years ago, right? Like 15 years ago. I'm 26 years old, right? And I've got abs, right? I got pecs, I got biceps, I got traps. Like I'm in shape, right? It was like, hey, Mike, I need some help. Can you come over and help me move this? Can you come over and help me move that? Right? He knew how to put everything together, but he needed some help with moving things, like, and he would call me like I was a physical, strong person. I showed up in shape, right? But I didn't have those calluses. I didn't have the callus. So players need to develop a football callus and not just show up in shape. Without that, odds are they will be injured and won't be available for the team for the full duration of the season. And I'm going to talk to you guys about what that means. That is what this show is about. All right? So I want to talk about the myth of being in shape. Right? Like, is it possible to be in shape and just show up and play football? Right? And the difference between general fitness and football-specific conditioning, right? Like that's the big thing. We remember when Nick Bosa showed up after holding out for his contract extension. He showed up. He didn't do well. But it wasn't that he didn't do well, right? Like he just looked a little softer than he normally did, right? You miss an off season, you're injured, not injured, whatever the case is, you're just holding out because you want this contract extension. And you showed up healthy. Nothing was pulled, no tightness anywhere. You were physically in shape from top to bottom. But you weren't quite football ready, right? The demands of the NFL are just slightly different than your day-to-day life, right? Right now, today, I feel like I am a 41-year-old man who is in shape. I can drop and give you 50 push-ups, and I'll get up and I won't be breathing heavy, right? Not everyone can do that, right? Not everyone can do that. That is an impressive feat depending on who you're talking to, right? I can go out and I can pick up the 5-gallon jugs of water and one in each hand, and when I carry them into my house, and when I get inside, we have a countertop that's a little higher than waist height, and I can lift them up and boom, put them on the countertop. No problem at all. Impressive feat for certain people, right? My father-in-law, very impressive if he can do that, right? He probably looks at me and says, man, I would kill to have that youth and that strength. My 15-year-old son, who's going to be 16 in less than a week, not so much. Dad, this is what you want? Where you want me to put him? This guy's got brute strength. I've never seen this kid lift a weight. I've never seen him do a push-up. But I'm walking around with the 5-gallon jugs in my hands, and I'm letting them hang all the way down. They're all the way down because that's the easiest way for me to move them. He's walking around with them, curling them like they're bowling balls. Like, do I want the 15-pounder or do I want the 14-pounder? Oh, I don't really know which one of these guys I want, right? And that's kind of the difference of being in shape and being ready for specific football conditioning, okay? And that was what we saw with Nick Bosa. We saw the same thing when Brandon Ayuk was negotiating his contract extension. He's out and he's running. And he looks fast, right? Remember, he was on that soccer field just running routes, and the ball would just randomly go flying into a screen. Oh, he caught it, right? And then he showed us this video clip of when he's in his backyard, and he's running, and the tree was shaped like this. It was like a base, and the tree did like this. The tree did like this, and the ball flew between the V, and he caught it. And it's like, oh man, he's ready, right? Like he's in shape, but he wasn't ready for football conditioning. He didn't have that football callus, right? And those are the things that make a difference, right? Deebo Samuel. Remember him holding out. Remember this? Liking the Dallas Cowboy jersey swap photos and going out to eat lunch with Mike McDaniel. And Deebo, why aren't you in the building? Oh, it's contract negotiation time, right? And he showed up healthy. No pulls, no tears, no tightness. Brandon Ayuk showed up healthy. No pulls, no tears, no tightness. Trent Williams showed up healthy. No pulls, no tears, no tightness. And even Nick Bosa showed up healthy. No pulls, no tears, and no tightness. But what do all four of those guys have in common, other than being captains on the 49ers team, other than being leaders in their respective position groups? What do they have in common? They showed up in shape, but they didn't have those football calluses. And that's what we have to remember. And that's what I want you guys to continue to come back to that. That is what the purpose of this episode is. That's what I'm here to talk about. All right? I want you guys to realize that I am not here to just talk for the sake of talking, right? I want to talk to you guys about football calluses. Callusi, right? There should be a cool word for football calluses, right? There should be like a cool way to bring it up, you know? I don't know what that cool way is, but it should exist. You know what I'm saying? It should definitely exist. I'm just not sure how to go about like making it up. I'm sure the word is calluses, right? It's not callusi, but that sounds cool, right? Like I watch a lot of I watch a lot of Game of Thrones, so Khaleesi, Khaleesi, Khalasar, whatever it is. Like, those were the things that like stood out to me. But I'm not going to I'm not going to go into all that. I'm not going to go into all that. I digress. All right. But to me, those guys showed up in shape, but not with the football calluses. All right. And see, so what is a football callus, right? Physical and mental toughness built through repetition, contact, and game speed reps. You can show up and be able to do 100 push-ups, but you may not be able to run 100 routes and cut back and forth and jam and deal with somebody jamming you at the line if you're a wide receiver. You might not be able to do that. And if you can do it, you might be able to physically endure it, but you might not be good enough to accomplish what the quarterback and the coach and the play calls for you to accomplish. You may be able to physically endure it. Oh, he didn't knock me down. Right? Oh, he didn't blow me 3 yards off the ball, pause. But you weren't able to complete your route in time because when we threw the ball, it was just out of arm's reach if you're a wide receiver. You can show up in shape if you're Trent Williams and they snap the ball and the pass rusher's coming at you. He's got 3 or 4 different moves, right? You might be fast enough if it's a speed rush. But what if you're not strong enough if it's a bull rush? Or what if it's a speed rush that turns into a bull rush? What if it's a bull rush and he stops and turns into a spin move or a swipe? Right? You are physically in shape, but you're not in football shape. You don't have that football callus. But then there's different people on this 49ers team that relish the moment, right? When Fred Warner and George Kittle were looking for their contract extensions. Take this year, for example. Take just this year for an example. I've talked about Debo, no longer here. I talked about Ayuk, still here. I'm going to put him on this hand now. I've talked about Trent Williams. I'm going to put him on this hand now. I've talked about Nick Bosa. I'm going to put him on this hand now. These 3 guys are still here. And I said that they all were captains and leaders in their position groups. But you know who else is a leader in their position group? You know who else was a captain on this team? Fred Warner. You know who was a captain on this team and a leader at their position group and showed up during practices and preseason games? George Kittle. And what do those 2 guys have in common? They showed up and they played during contract negotiations when the rest of those guys didn't, and they were held out of practice, and they were held out of preseasons. And they were able to build this football callus. And now all of a sudden, George Kittle, you can see it on film. Just a couple reps, just a couple snaps. But you can see in the preseason, he's ready. You can see from just a couple of reps in practice, Fred Warner, he's ready. He's fired up. He's ready to lead. He's ready to lead the charge of the next set of 49er linebacker greats. The 49ers have been blessed with a dynamic duo at the linebacker position since Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman. I would argue that before Navarro Bowman was the guy next to Patrick Willis, that even Takeo Spikes and Patrick Willis was a dynamic duo. But I digress. It didn't happen for a long time. Y'all weren't around long enough to appreciate it the way that I was. And that's okay. But we went from Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman, Navarro Bowman and Chris Borland, Navarro Bowman, Reuben Foster / Fred Warner, Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. Now Dre Greenlaw is going, we're looking for the next guy. But you know what was the consummate remaining common denominator every time? That leader stayed there. And that leader showed up in the offseason. And that leader came to camp and preseason games and developed that callus. Fred Warner's been here every step of the way, guys. George Kittle was here every step of the way. And these guys have that callus because they've got the reps. They've put the work in to say, hey, I'm here. Don't overlook me. I'm here. They've got it. They've got it. And that's what the football callus is. These preseason games, While they don't count in the record books, the stats are irrelevant. The wins and losses, we don't give a shit about. But they're out there and physically going through it at full speed. It's a little bit different than the practice. The practices are very, very important. I'm going to come back to that later. The practices are important. But the preseason games, right? What the preseason games allow us to do as the viewers and not the insiders, not the coaches, not the beat writers, not the players. It gives us casual viewers of the game, it gives the spectators an opportunity to form an opinion. It is fantasy football draft season right now. I haven't seen Brandon Ayuk take a single snap. I haven't seen Nick Bosa take a single snap. And some of those fantasy leagues have defensive players. How comfortable are you taking Nick Bosa right now? Niners have the easiest schedule in the NFL. They play some of the worst quarterbacks in the 6-game stretch in the entire NFL. But how comfortable are you taking Nick Bosa as your first and top defensive player if you draft defensive players in your fantasy football draft? You're probably not that comfortable. And I don't blame you because we haven't seen it. We don't know if this guy has developed the football callus. The last time we saw him not participate in preseason, Nick Bosa had a womp-womp year. Nick Bosa had the type of season that had us booing him. We were flat out disappointed with the season that Nick Bosa had. And you know what Nick Bosa said? He walked to the podium at the end of the season and said, yeah, I thought I could have done better.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I'm not. Those were his words. He thought he could have done better. So who am I to tell him he's wrong? See, he didn't have that football callus when week 1 came around. Now, this is going to lead to something a little bit greater. These players have to be accountable to not just themselves. I talked about the captain, the C's on the chest, right? These guys are leaders in their respective rooms. Trent in the offensive lineman room. Fred in the linebacker room. George in the tight end room. Ayuk in the wide receiver room. You guys don't just owe it to yourselves. You owe it to the people studying underneath you to show up and be accountable. Your leadership is going to directly affect team chemistry. Ayuk, you can't show up pouting and being mad that we're not throwing you the ball because you don't have that football callus. While you now come into the fray, and now his is different because it's injury. But when you come into the fray, and as you build that football callus, you can't be upset that you're not getting 8 targets in the game. What you should be doing is applauding the guys like Pearsall who developed that callus. Guys like Russell Gage and Robbie Chosen who developed that callus. Demarcus Robinson who developed that callus. You should be applauding those guys and saying, hey, good job. Thanks for holding it down. I'm on my way soon. Bear with me while I develop this callus. See, these things are going to affect team chemistry and timing and the trust that the quarterback has with his wide receivers. And this isn't just wide receiver specific, guys. It's going to also affect the way the offensive line works together. Trent Williams is lining up next to somebody. He's lining up next to somebody. There's a new left guard in town. You know who he hasn't played against in real reps? Or hasn't played with in real reps? You guessed it, Trent Williams. The replacement left guard for Aaron Banks has showed up and showed out, and he has tried his damnedest, and he thinks he's ready for the season. But what if Trent takes his right foot and puts it forward instead of back? What if Trent's first step is 2.5 feet to the right, which is closer to the left guard, instead of just 2 feet? Timing, rhythm, chemistry. trust. It's all on the line. And you're supposed to be a leader. Yet you're held out of practice and preseason games just because. No injuries reported. Just because. And we're in a Kyle Shanahan-led offense that is highly dependent on rhythm and timing and consistency with the reps. But all of a sudden, we don't need it because it's Trent. That's cool. Don't worry about it. All of a sudden, we don't need it because it's Nick Bosa. Oh, you don't think that those stunts make a difference? Did you guys watch the same preseason that I watched? I saw stunts. I saw blitzes. I saw exotic blitzes. Robert Saleh was pulling out the packages for the rookies, those without experience in his system. He was doing it all. You know what I didn't see out there one time? Nick Bosa. Now, I'm not saying that Nick Bosa didn't participate in some of the practices. Those are controlled environments. He did. He was out there. Not all holdouts are created equal. But Nick Bosa and Trent Williams were above playing in preseason. Not a single rep. Not a one. But you know what I saw game after game and week after week? I saw that linebacking core improve every single week. And when it came time to the 53-man cutdowns, I told myself, hey, I'm cool with whatever four they decide to keep because I've seen flashes from all of them. I was completely done with Nick Martin at the conclusion of the first preseason game. This kid is in over his head. He looks like Quan Alexander, just worse. He misses the tackles, and he's moving way too fast, and this game is just not right for him. He's too dependent on his speed. You know what I saw week 2 of the preseason? Drastic improvement. Oh, man, did this kid Nick Martin look so much better. And I said, okay, that's what a rookie should look like right there. That's what a promising look. That's what a rookie with potential should look like right there, week 2. That's it. And then he came back in week 3. That Broncos game. Oh, what? You go from Broncos, Raiders, what? Then to the Chargers. Oh, man. Right? And I'm like, yes, that's good. That's growth. That's what we want to see. But you know what was different? Fred Warner was there. Fred Warner was next to him and by his side and in the trenches and able to teach this young man. Now, was he on the field with him? Maybe not. But he saw Fred earning those calluses. And he said, if Fred Warner can put in that kind of work, then who the fuck am I to not give that same type of effort? To give more of that effort. That's all pro Fred Warner right there. That is the best linebacker in the entire NFL putting in that kind of effort. How dare I not show up? Right? How dare I, Nick Martin, not show up? And he got better and better as time went on. And that's accountability. And that's the Kyle Shanahan system, offensively and defensively. That's what you need. You need to know that you can depend on your brother, that you can time your brother's reps with your own reps and the snaps and the steps. That all works together in one big cohesive ball of energy. And we've got leaders just sitting out on the sideline. And what happens when you sit out for too long? Well, that's where I'm going to take a break. I'm going to light my hookah. I'm going to sit back and we're going to listen to what happens when you sit out too long. Not Mike's words. No. Not at all. We're going to hear the words from our fearless leader, Kyle Shanahan. He's going to break down what happens when you sit out too long. When you have too much time on your hands, when you allow yourself to maybe be a little complacent. When you're just a little bit too good for practice? When you're just a little bit too good for joint practices and preseason participation? Kyle's going to break it down for you. Not my words, Kyle's words. Now, I'll elaborate afterwards, but I want you guys to hear what head coach Kyle Shanahan has to say when it comes to this, okay? Let me go ahead and go on mute. You guys check this out. I'm going to put on the closed captions. Hold on. Let me put on some closed captions here. Come on. What's happening? I don't want to do any of that of what you're saying. Thank you. There we go. Here we go.
And are there any things that you could put your finger on why this is happening again?
I mean, it's stuff that we look into every year.
I'm going to rewind it just a little bit so you guys can hear the full question, okay? All right.
Did you take time to look at
I don't know why it's buffering like that. I apologize, but here we go. We're gonna get this straightened out. Once the buffering is done, we'll be good to go. This is only gonna be like a minute and a half clip, maybe 2 minutes tops. Okay, here we go. Come on, Kyle. Uh-oh. Come on, get it right now. Don't do this. We got plenty of speed here. And of course,
so many injuries in training camp. Did you take time to look at last year to try to avoid that? And are there any things that you could put your finger on why this is happening again?
I mean, it's stuff that we look into every year.
Why are there so many injuries?
We'll try to
Second
even look
year in a
into
row.
it more after this year, but we even had been able to have the training camp that we normally want to have because of the injuries. I mean, it's not like they just all happened one week.
We can't even have the practices that we want to
It
have.
happened pretty early with the number of guys and stuff, and just way our schedule's gone with our scrimmages, with having these games and the off days and traveling. I don't feel like we've had enough of the training camp practice to say that we're going.
We haven't had enough of the training camp practices to even say that we're going in the right direction. We're just kind of getting by with the seat, the seam seat. Y'all know the expression. I don't know what the hell the expression is, but we're barely getting by. We're just surviving at this point, right? I haven't been able to execute the practices that I want to. I want to know where we're failing and where we're successful, but I don't have the luxury of being able to figure it out because my guys can't stay healthy. They can't stay healthy. And I told you guys, this is going to be a full circle moment here. It's going to be a full circle moment. We're going to talk about the injuries and where these injuries come from and why they happen so often. All right, let me refresh this page. Where are we at? We're at 316.
But obviously we have too many guys down. So we got to look into all that stuff and figure out whatever we can do better.
Is Max knee just, is it a minor issue because you think he'll be back next week and he was able to play through it?
Yeah, we think he'll be back. Yeah, I think he should be fine for week 1. We just know he can't go this week. So.
Well, at the end of last year, you were pretty honest about saying that you felt things were off right from the training camp all the way through. And I'm just wondering, now that training camp is winding down, what's your assessment? How's your feeling? How's your feeling about the vibe, the attitude of the team?
I love the way we're going. I love the way we're working. I mean, obviously, when you have the number of injuries we've had, like, not always enjoying that, but it's such a different deal this year than last year, and not just because of how our mood is in camp. We knew that when the season ended, but you could really see that in free agency. You could see how the draft went and stuff. We were really turning over a lot of this team. So the vibe that we brought into this offseason in OTAs and stuff, with adding a lot more youth, a big change in a lot of the people, not having as many people had been here through this whole run. It changed so much then, and that's continued into camp. A lot of young guys have stepped up. A lot of guys, I always feel when you have the veterans, like, we have veterans who all work hard. So it's not like I ever have to get on veterans to do more in practice. Our guys go as hard as they can. But vets are vets. it's a little more fake and false enthusiasm than anything else. You know, they're not really excited about camp. So when you have young guys out there who are making plays and stuff, to me, those are the loud ones. Those are the ones who inspire the vets. And that's what I've been a lot more excited about this year. We have a bunch of guys doing it. I think we've had a little more on defense than offense. Some of our young guys on offense have been hurt, so we haven't been able to get that much out of them yet. But I know it will come as this year goes.
Kyle, boy, you just said a mouthful. You just said a mouthful. I already emphasized the point that he was driving home with. We haven't been able to run the type of preseason and camp that we wanted to due to the injuries, right? And I want to take this moment to remind you guys about a young man that was a rookie. His name was Dominic Pooney, and we quickly fell in love with him. Why? Because the right guard, 1 and 2, went down. He had to step up. And not only did he step up, he answered the bell because he was able to look around and see some of those leaders around him. Man, that is Jake Brindle. He is a starting center in the NFL. That is Colton McKivitz. That is a starting right tackle. And I get to play between these two veterans here. And they may not be the top of the 49ers fan list, but he was surrounded by veterans. And they were whispering into his ear, and they were telling him, hey, young buck, do this, do that. And they got that cohesion right. Well, we haven't been able to do it this year. And Kyle goes on to admit that, hey, you know, that fervor, that excitement, that enthusiasm that these veterans come in the training camp with, it ain't real. It's not real. They don't want to do that any more than you would think they want to do it. They can't stand it, in fact. It's fake, but they do it. We need them to do it, right? Like he talks about that right here. But hey, that's not what I'm going to focus on. I'm here to talk about the injuries. I'm here to talk about what happens when players and how players get injured, right? I said you weren't going to hear it from me. You're going to hear it from Kyle, right? What he just said was cool, and that does help prove a point of what I was talking about earlier. But I'm not done, and Kyle's not done. From the same presser, I want you guys to listen to what he has to say now, right? He's going to drive another point home that I want y'all to focus on. I need y'all to pay attention. See, right? Preseason is over. The final 53, it's here. We know who's here. We know who's not. It's changing, yes. But what about some of those starting positions? What about some of these people that need that cohesion, that rhythm, that timing in the offense and the defense, right? Kyle Shanahan, you're an offensive-minded guy. Well, Kyle, what do you think about your defense? I'm going to let Kyle tell you himself.
Not just Juwan or anyone, but people need to practice. They need to get ready to get play an NFL season, or you end up getting hurt. So hopefully he can get his health back so he can get out there and start practicing. Just running routes, doing things.
You know
like
what?
that.
I'm going to rewind it some more. Let's run it back. Listen to this. He starts with Juwan Jennings, but it ain't just about the offense.
Yeah, I mean, any player, not just Juwan or anyone, but people need to practice. They need to get ready to get play an NFL season.
People need to practice, not just Juwan. They need to practice. They need to get ready to play an NFL season. It's not about being healthy. What did I tell you guys? You can show up healthy, but if you don't have that football callus, this is what Kyle Shanahan is talking about. Listen to this man. He's telling y'all something. He's telling you some really pertinent information here. It's not just about being healthy when week 1 rolls around. What have you developed in the offseason? Tell me about that callus that you have grown from just 2 fingers on the underneath your ring finger.
Juwan is good. I mean, when the cap is ready, he's good to go for week 1. Or is there a conversation you need to have?
Yeah, I mean, any player, not just Juwan or anyone, but people need to practice. They need to get ready to get play an NFL season, or you end up getting hurt. So hopefully he can get his health back so he can get out there and start practicing. Just running routes, doing things like that. Same thing for Upton. Not many people can get through that stuff without practicing. We had it a little with Bosa one year, a little bit with Trent, some different positions, but it's always a huge challenge.
Are you different?
Excuse me, bitch?
Did he mention Trent and Bosa by name? Are you telling me that Kyle knows that if these guys don't participate in preseason and in training camp, that showing up healthy for week 1 isn't enough? Did he just mention those guys with the C on their chest, those captains of his, and the leaders of their respective position groups? Showing up healthy isn't enough, right? You got to get it from somewhere. That's what Kyle's saying. That's what Kyle's saying. Hey, look, you don't believe me? Let's go to a whole different presser. In case you thought that was a Freudian slip, maybe he wasn't supposed to say it. Right? Maybe this is just something that's deep down inside of Kyle Shanahan. He bogs this kind of thing down. He hides it from everybody, right? He doesn't want to say these things, but sometimes it just comes out. The truth, sometimes you just can't hide. Right? Like we saw it with Bosa and with Trent. Yeah, they showed up healthy week 1, but they weren't ready. They ended up getting hurt later in those same seasons because they didn't develop that football callus in the preseason and throughout training camp. And yes, these guys are participating a little bit in training camp, but I haven't seen them in preseason, right? Haven't seen them do anything in preseason. And Kyle Shanahan himself said that he held Trent Williams out of the joint practices and the one-on-ones. Well, what fucking good does that do? What good does that do when an entire week is devoted to joint practices, Kyle? And I'm not blaming Kyle here, because if the guys feel like that they've earned the break, hey, man, looks, I'm a 13, 14, 15-year veteran. I don't want to do those joint practices. And he had his reasons for holding him out. I heard it. I heard him talk about why he didn't want to put Trent through the rigors of an entire joint practice. But what's the matter with giving him a couple reps, Kyle? Huh? Sometimes you got to refresh that callus. Sometimes you got to renew that bad boy. Sometimes you can go through 3-4 months being off and putting on some good lotion. And all of a sudden, those hands get buttery soft and smooth. And it feels good if you're touching your significant other, if you want to caress somebody. But when it's time to manhandle someone, when it's time to bully someone, Nick Bosa, huh? When it's time to throw somebody around, Trent Williams, you need it. You need it, right? Now, this is Kyle here following the just listen. Just listen. I'm going to shut up.
McCaffrey and Kittle, are they ready for the regular season, you think?
Yeah, I do.
He thinks that McCaffrey and Kittle are ready for the regular season.
I mean, you always want to keep working and stuff, but it's such a fine line. Like, those guys, they're ready physically when it starts, but they know they got to get through camp and stuff so their bodies can take it throughout the whole year. It's really
They're ready for the physical start. Listen to this man, huh? These aren't my words anymore, guys. This is what Kyle Shanahan is saying. Listen to this man. He's telling y'all, yes, they're physically ready for the start, but there's more to it. There's just a little bit more to it.
Keep working and stuff, but it's such a fine line. Like, those guys, they're ready physically when it starts, but they know they got to get through camp and stuff so their bodies can take it throughout the whole year. It's really tough when the way those guys play on Sunday, that they can always throughout the year get a lot of work on Wednesday and Thursday. So if you don't get that work now, sometimes you never can catch it back up. The problem is stretching it all out. And that's why we got to be smart with those guys. That's why those guys do get some fed days. It's kind of naturally happened with these scrimmages because we've had 2 on, 1 off, then we have to travel. Now we have tomorrow off, and then we'll see how the game goes. I haven't decided with all those guys yet, but there's not a lot of time in the game either.
With how Christian...
Do I need to touch on it anymore? So this is clearly something that's important to Kyle Shanahan. Let me zoom in on me. This is clearly something that's important to Kyle Shanahan. This is not important to Mike. Well, it is important to me, and I thought I was off a little bit. But then when you have the head coach, a successful head coach, a guy who's appeared in multiple Super Bowls, when he's telling you the same thing, it's got to mean something. It's got to mean something. But you held Trent out all preseason. You held Bosa out all preseason. You held Christian McCaffrey out all preseason while you just sat there and said, you got to do it in order to be ready for the regular season, Kyle. Why are you contradicting yourself like this? I put no words into this man's mouth. You just said so yourself that it was important for these guys to get it in preseason and get it in training camp. But you're holding them out and they get some vet days. And then you followed up by saying you can't make that time back up. Well, who's supposed to get it? Where are they supposed to get it from? Anybody out there in the chat, type your responses. Let me know. Where are they supposed to get it from? Where's the accountability? Kyle Shanahan is a head coach that prides himself on preparation. He has an emphasis on being exactly where you're supposed to be in the moment you're supposed to be there. And cohesion is a massive part of it for the respective groups that these guys play in. Excuse me. Now, there are different types of coaches in the NFL, especially when it comes to preseason participation. Sean McVay plays none of his starters in preseason. It worked for him all of one time. And that same one time that it worked, you know what he did? He traded the farm to get another quarterback. He signed a free agent safety or a corner. He signed defensive linemen and linebackers. He went out there and got running backs. I mean, he put the whole gamut out there. And it was just enough to go out there and win the big one. Barely enough, but he got it done. He got it done. But when Kyle sits here and tells you the importance of preseason and training camp himself, but then he's the one that makes the decision to sit a guy like Christian McCaffrey who's coming back from an injury. Just sit down, Chris. Sit down, Trent. Sit down, Nick. We don't need you right now. What do you sincerely have in mind for the productivity of those guys in the regular season? Raise your hand if you think they're going to play all 18 games. Anybody? Because based off of his own words, Kyle don't. He don't think that's going to happen. He just said it himself. He just said so himself. You might show up week one and be ready physically, but you don't have that football callus. Listen, guys, showing up builds resilience. It reduces the risk of injury, and it strengthens team unity. You need that. You depend on that in football. You can call the perfect play, and 10 people can execute to perfection. But if there is one weak link in the duration of that play, the whole thing falls apart. And so I say to the players and to the coaches and even to the fans that say preseason doesn't matter. It does. It does. And one of the brightest minds in the entire NFL agrees with what I'm saying. It makes it tough. It makes it tough. Right? I went through the entire gamut of, hey, what do you think this season is going to be for the 49ers? And what I did was I said from week 1 all the way down to week 18, if we're completely healthy, I can't find 5 losses on the schedule anywhere. I had the Niners finishing 13-4 as the floor for this season, guys. That's what I said. But what I didn't know was that we weren't going to have Nick Bosa participating in preseason at all, barely participating in training camp. I didn't know that we weren't going to have Trent Williams not participating at all in preseason, barely in training camps and joint practices. I didn't know that we weren't going to have Christian McCaffrey at all in preseason, barely participating in training camp. I didn't know that we weren't going to have, I am lying, I did know that we weren't going to have Brandon Ayuk not participating at all. Well, guys, those are leaders at every single position group, not tight end and quarterback, for the offense of the 49ers. That also tells me that those guys are going to falter at some point during the season. They're going to waver in their availability. There is a mental toughness that goes along with the physical toughness and availability. And that is something that we need to discuss, but I won't bore you guys anymore. This has been a long 50-plus minute show. I'm going to let you guys go. But this is what I will say. Knowing and anticipating those losses, if they happen on an individual basis, if we lose Christian McCaffrey for a game, but Trent's out there and Bosa's out there, we can survive. If we lose Trent for a game or two, but McCaffrey's out there and Bosa's out there, we might be all right. It's cool. And whenever Ayuk gets back, whenever he comes back, if we got Christian out there, if we got Trent out there, we got Bosa out there, we can survive these tests. But what happens when one or two of those guys aren't there? I don't know how you guys felt when the wide receiver list came out for the final 53. I wasn't encouraged. I wasn't. Sorry. And there's just one too many rookies on this defensive line for me to say, hey, guys, we don't necessarily need Nick Bosa for every one of these games. I think we do. I think we do. And so you're left with looking around the locker room. See it in my background? You're left with looking around these jersey numbers that are back here. Someone else is going to have to step up out of these guys here. And they're going to have to hold ground, not just hold ground. They're going to have to play well. And not just play well, they're going to have to work well with the guy next to them. And where does that leave us? I go from 13 wins with confidence and cockiness all the way down to about 9 wins. Because we didn't take the time to develop the football callus. We chose to let these guys sit back and relax when they could have just got a couple more reps, a couple more snaps, a preseason teaser. Just show me, show us, the viewers, that, hey, we're in good hands. We don't need to see them much more than this. What was wrong with the series? Just give me one. Just give me one series. That's all I was looking for. Anyway, that's going to do it, man. All right? I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Shout out to the Patreon community, man. I want to give you guys a round of applause. We were great. All right? This episode will be airing on the regular YouTube page of Nothing But Niners very soon. All right? And if you are out there watching this on the replay of the YouTube channel, I want you guys to head on over to patreon.com/NB9ERS and become a member. $5 and up in the regular season. You get this kind of stuff early. Early, man. Early. This episode is going to be airing in a couple of days on the YouTube page, probably Sunday or Monday on the holiday. But the Patreon people, they had it earlier. They get to share in my concern. And just, by the way, if you think that this was a negative episode, that's cool. That's cool. I got a positive one coming your guys' way soon, too. All right? Because with all the negative, all the worries, and all the concerns throughout the duration of this preseason, I saw a lot to be positive about. And that part, I can't wait to break down. Probably even more so than this one. All right? So that's going to do it for us here tonight, man. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I can't wait to talk to you guys, all right? Can't wait to go live again. Prepare for glory, anticipate pain, but always remain faithful. Peace.
We all gas, no brakes, pumped up, no fakes. We spinning, we winning, we high stakes. We never miss, we all makes. Look at us dudes trying to prove, bringing you news with nothing to lose. Mike, Nick, Tony, Wayne, Method Man, we bring the pain. Hey, see, I'ma confess it. We under the pressure. If you looking to find us, we them nothing but Niners. We nothing but Niners. We nothing but Niners. We nothing but Niners. We nothing but. We them nothing but Niners.